Two and one. All right, so we're getting recorded. Guys, thank you so much. It's such a fantastic day to have all female panelists with me, and all of you are great achievers and great entrepreneurs. And I can't wait any longer to ask you and shoot my questions to you. I'm sure you will answer them pretty well. So let me introduce our first speaker, Ashley, because Ashley came first on the panel. She was about 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Early, and so thank you so much, Ashley, for coming over. Ashley is a co-founder, is a founder of a company called Closet Freekz, a fashion brand inspired by the latest culture, music, style, and eco-consciousness. Now, in a world where fashion trends seems to get oversaturated and excessively less unique, she has created an exclusive brand name with mantra: buy different and shop different. That's a great thing. Actually, she has been an athlete for the University of Florida and also served in the US Army. Excellent. This is where her keen decisiveness and strong will comes from. With the plan to expand with more than 10 to 20 shops across the country, she has amassed a wide network of audience and her style mark. Let us welcome our first speaker, Ashley Bowlings. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
me.
much. Yep. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you very much for coming over. Our next speaker is Brittany Bly. She's from Houston, Texas, and she's a founder of a company called Pop Shop America, a handmade art and design company that hosts festivals and teaches workshops. She teaches regularly in the Houston Public Library at private events like bridal showers. Based in Houston, she has conducted free workshops for people there, believing the art and design is fun way to explore and analyze one's creativity. With BA in history, art, and criticism, she has correctly imbibed her learnings and teaching into this venture, defining the core values for what the company is and what it stands for. From a small business offering detailed support to businesses to working with over 400 businesses, she has embraced the need and the importance of marketing. So she is our marketing person and the go-to marketing person. She has a lot of tips and tricks that she can give us on marketing. She wants to make the companies aware of importance of brand building, SEO, social media, and organic ads. Saying all this, let us know her insights on what she has to say about her experience. And that is our second speaker, Brittany Bly. Brittany, welcome to the panel.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
You're most welcome, Brittany. Our next speaker is Kristen Edwards, or Dr. Kristen Edwards. She is a founder of BLK plus Green, I think Black plus Green, I guess. Uh,
It's black
you
and
got
green.
Black and Green. Black and Green, it's an online marketplace for all natural beauty and lifestyle products for Black women-owned businesses. So she is especially focusing on Black women who are entrepreneurs and are in the business of offering lifestyle products which are natural and unique and green and are healthy for people. But with a keen vision, she's on a mission to make lifestyles greener greener and shopping from Black easier. With a vast variety of products from makeup to moisturizers are vetted by her, including physicians, dermatologists, and makeup artists. What she's trying to build over here is, along with the company, is a vast community of people of similar interest and talent. So, Dr. Kristen, after completing a BA in History of Science and Medicine, she went to pursue a higher degree in medicinal practices and further worked as administrator and as teaching assistant. She has also co-founded a company called Clearview 360 Degrees, and nurturing relationships and bringing them upfront for company's growth is what she has done and done wonderfully. This is our next speaker, Kristen Edwards, Dr. Kristen Edwards, who is working for Black community women and trying to make them look more beautiful naturally with the help of green things, which are not toxic, and she's doing a fabulous work there. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Edwards, for coming over this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Our last speaker for the day is Nicole Banks. Nicole is a founder of Pretty Pieces, a hip fashion brand for women who want the trendiest clothes on and shop on their toes. After battling a major illness, she came back with double determination and started her own venture. She has a background in IT, design and marketing, and lets her stay on top of her things, track latest trends. After her 25-year career in health insurance leadership, marketing and sales, she dropped out and started her own venture, defining fashion as more than just clothes. She has taken the fashion symbol to higher levels. She's a very jolly and outspoken person, as you would, and definitely you will understand that in the session. And she has built a brand that people really talk about in the US. And that's our fourth speaker, Nicole Banks. Guys, I'm going to keep this aside now because this is so unreal and so boring. Let's start some real conversations here. I'm not going to refer to this paper anymore. Let me ask my first question to Ashley. Ashley, you are doing fabulous work. I mean, you're trying to mix music and latest culture, and you had a background in army. What's your why? Why do you leave army, and why do you start this new shopping thing, new apparel brand, which is based upon music and latest culture? And what's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Well, I left the army because I had a brick and mortar at the time, and it was my first brick and mortar, and it was making a lot more money than the army could pay me. And at the time, the country was still deploying, and had done the best I can to work on this side of those deployments. And I was very lucky to get a bit notification that I may or may not have to deploy in a 9-month span. And so I chose to go ahead and take my opportunity not to resign because I couldn't leave. I didn't want to leave my company for a year to serve anymore. So at that time, I had already did about 5 years. So it was just a good time, and all my family has been in the military, and I learned a lot, and I was ready to get back into business for full time.
Interesting. So your fashion brand is inspired by latest culture, music, style, and eco-consciousness. Can you talk a bit more about this?
Absolutely, and big heavy on the eco-consciousness. The purpose of my company and the reason I designed it was to really get involved in testing and experimenting in ways that we could recycle clothing. And I already had saw what some of the industry was already doing. At that time, biodegradable clothing and fashion lines out of more sustainable resources wasn't yet a thing, but everybody was kind of practicing a bit on what sustainability was going to mean and still getting the data on what detriments it would have if we didn't start making changes in sustainability in terms of fashion. So the smallest barrier of entry was vintage clothing. So I started off with vintage apparel and then worked my way up into finding technology that could allow people to recycle straight from their homes, just more quickly and more conveniently. And the pandemic really helped that testing and that data helped the company grow a lot more as far as eco-consciousness is concerned. When it comes to textiles pollution is the first biggest polluter right now globally. And it's also a $64 billion industry and growing. So it behooves anybody in the resale market, as I consider them both the same thing. Whatever we retail is going to have to be recycled at some point if it's not biodegradable. So it behooves us to kind of lean into that industry a bit and just see how, whether you're interested in eco-consciousness or not, or just interested in how the future of fashion and clothing is going to go. I think understanding resale and understanding the resale industry and how to be sustainable about what you're doing, it's just going to be a necessary value to have and add to any company. Did I answer you?
Yes. So that's a great message. I think it's very important that what you're doing is you're absolutely right about the industry size and people getting more conscious about what they're wearing, whether it's biodegradable or not. And you taking the mission forward is an excellent thing that you're doing. One follow-up question to you as well, Ashley. Uh, Whatever you learned in army, What portions of those learnings are helping you in your business?
Well, my specialty in the Army was human resources. So I kept track of staffing. And so I think one of the troubles that that I had when I first started business was finding the right staff to do the right jobs, even if the job is growing and changing. And I think as a business owner or entrepreneur or startup or whatever your progression is, you may not know exactly what that role is yet, but you know you need somebody and you need a masses of somebody sometimes. So what the military taught me is that just because someone can come in proficient or trained with a certain MOS or job does not mean that they cannot be developed and used across multiple needs. Because at the end of the day in the military, once you deploy in this life or death, country for country, you're just responsible for getting the job done. It doesn't matter what my specialty is, whatever the job is calling for is is what you have to lean into. And so I brought that into my company as well. We're always looking and shopping for talent. And that was from the very beginning because we're looking for talent of people who can understand how to grow with the business. And then also how to make temporary positions so that everyone is not required to feel like they have to stay at a job in a position for a long period of time. I do believe that's a thing of the past, especially my company is geared towards millennials and Gen Z. So a lot of the employees and the customers are in their mid 30s and younger. And so a lot of that age group is entrepreneurs themselves, or they're looking for value out of a job and experience. So we tailor a lot of short-term positions and then some long-term positions that may also grow and develop and require that employee to have to grow and develop with that position. And then when their time is done, we incentivize the experience. And when their time is done, we glorify the opportunity to move forward into a new position. And I think that's one of the best things and key things I learned or took from the Army about how they run their operation.
Excellent. That's a great learning, Ashley. Thank you very much for sharing it with our viewers today. Coming to Nicole. Nicole, thank you for joining the panel. Tell us about your business and tell us, where do you spend most of your time in your business? What takes up most of your time?
So I am Nicole Banks, the Chief Pretty Chicken Charge at ShopPrettyPieces.com, and it is a fashion house for that 40 plus fashionista. I spend a lot of time honing technology. Technology runs the backside of the business. I am the face of the business, but I also put a lot of to the behind the scenes. So I do run an omni-channel marketing stack. My tech stack is about 10 apps deep. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. I spend a lot of my time understanding which pieces of the tech stack are working and, making sure those pieces are calibrated and making sure that what is happening on the back end is presented accordingly on the front end. So that's how I spend a lot of my time.
Excellent. So Nicole is a tech person and she makes sure that tech is solving her problems and she makes sure that tech is working properly for her, and that's what her forte is, and that's where she spends most of her time. Excellent. Coming to you, Brittany. So tell us about your journey in Pop Shop in the last 12 months. What mistakes did you make in the last 12 months and what has worked for you in the last 12 months?
That's a really great question, because a lot of the things that we were mentioning in the intro about like in-person events, all of that is gone. For us, it's actually been gone for several years. We did host a lot of events until March of last year, but the e-commerce had been taken over for some time. Not just e-commerce, but I create a lot of content as well. We do a lot of sponsored content. We run ads on the blog. So just maintaining and managing that website is a big part of my day-to-day schedule. I really relate to what Nicole was saying. I think for a lot of us that run our own companies, a big part of it, and especially ones that are growing, we're really the head of marketing. And that's a big component of it. So I spend a lot of time just on the technical aspects, a lot like, what Nicole is doing. Within the last year, everything just skyrocketed. Now I'm in the art and craft space, so we sell really cool, trendy, modern craft supplies. Everything is like Pinterest fail free. Everything is very tested. They're all very high-end craft supplies so that people don't have to test a million things or try out stuff that doesn't work. We also compile them into kits so people don't end up with too much of one thing and too little of another. Now, there was a huge amount of growth in the space over the last couple of years, and especially during the pandemic. So the single biggest thing that I realized is that any kind of growth for any business is not going to happen steadily. When you experience that growth, oftentimes you have products that go viral, and it happens in the blink of an eye. And so being prepared for that is really challenging, because when you're expecting a certain amount of sales, you're managing a certain amount of inventory, all of a sudden you have something that goes, viral, and you have to get in the mindset of stocking hundreds more, thousands more, manufacturing, that many more at a time. It's so much all at once. And even though you're making those sales, you're really financing that growth. Additionally, when that happens, during a pandemic, or when we have these challenges, of people being able to work in close proximity, a lot of manufacturing facilities being closed. I don't know how other people did with this, but it was a challenge at different times to even be able to supply everything that we needed to supply. So it really takes being resourceful, being able to adapt, being able to change, and understanding your supplies well enough and having multiple suppliers to where you can figure it out and make it work. So I think the single greatest failure and the single greatest success over the last year is hopefully something that we can all learn from, which is that when you're growing, just expect that it's not going to be slow and steady. It's going to be all over the place, and being able to immediately, once that happens, kick into gear, make the additional hires that you need to be able to produce what you need to produce, being able to manage that amount of inventory, any of the things that come along with it, just expect that all of that is going to happen really, really quickly, and that the change that you go through is just a part of it. When that happens, there's always going to be customer service problems, right? So I know that this is specific to e-commerce. So I know that there's a lot of, people that are always emailing, there's questions, there's been a lot of issues with mail. So being prepared for that as well, knowing that as you grow, you are going to hit those customers that are just like outraged that their package was 2 days delayed or like whatever, went wrong. And knowing that you need to be prepared for that is super important. I can say from the pandemic, the most important thing when growing in that way is managing customer service and responding to people, even if you have to tell them bad news, even if you have to tell them their package was damaged, lost, returned, something is going wrong. Being able to tell them very specifically as quickly as possible is going to make the whole thing so much easier and so much better. And so really admitting when something has gone wrong is going to help you with your business along the way.
Brittany, that was superb. What she's saying is just like our lives, entrepreneurial journey is also full of surprises, and you can be prepared for it. You cannot be prepared for it, but you got to serve it, come what may. And just like any other relationship, let's say a relationship with our friends, spouses, mom, dad, if something has gone wrong, if you admit, 90% problem is solved. And that the same philosophy we can also apply in our business. That's what Brittany is trying to hammer the point at point home. Thank you so much, Brittany, for giving away that fantastic tip and fantastic advice. Dr. Edwards, you have been nodding and smiling and being able to relate to every speaker on the panel. Nicole, Brittany, Ashley, you have been, yes, as if you are experiencing all of that. So I would want you to first of all comment on what all the other three speakers have commented. That's the first question to you.
Yeah, I think part of it is nice sometimes to talk to other entrepreneurs because sometimes you feel you're in a world by yourself. So when they're talking about their issues and problems, like, yes, I had the same issue. So I think some of it's just like, it's happy to make you feel like you aren't alone. But with Black and Green, we source all of our products from small indie brands. And so trying to get products during COVID, when there's a worldwide bottle shortage, we work with smaller brands who often can't get raw ingredients. So they're having a hard time making products. So we send out a purchase order, say, hey, we're going to order this many units of these. Months and months and months would go by and they wouldn't say anything to us. Like, they tell us, like, it was late. I was like, well, per your contract, you're late now. So like, where's the stuff at? And so like, but also having grace and understand like they're working under a tough time. So I think communication is key. Just talk to me and tell me what's happening. Like, hey, I can't get this bottle. Hey, I can get this raw ingredient. As soon as I get it, I'll let you know. But I think that sometimes I think back to the point of just like, even if customers are upset, I think it's important. But when you're running a business, like, I guess in some ways I am my artisan's customer. So like, just communicate with me and let me know what's happening. Like, hey, I know I'm supposed to have this to you in 10 days, but because of the worldwide bottle shortage or because I can't get this raw ingredient, I just can't do it. And keep me constantly informed instead of just not saying anything at all, which is what I think would happen often is that they would say, oh man, I can't make this product. Well, we'll see how next month look. And so like they weren't communicating with us at all about it. Then on the other side, like I have my artisans I'm trying to communicate with, but then also have my customers I'm trying to communicate with. And so my customers are getting frustrated. Like, I ordered this, where is it? So I'm like, the artisan who makes it can't make it right now because of the worldwide bottle shortage. So that was the issue that we had. And then I don't know if you guys have talked about this at all, but the USPS shipping delays were driving us crazy. So like we were shipping stuff out, we had tracking numbers, but they were never scanned in. And so it looked like it didn't go anywhere. And so people were really frustrated. Like, did you guys just send me a fake tracking number? So like, there's so much anger that we were dealing with. Like people said, you guys, I said, yes, we have time. We go to a random number generator, just make up tracking numbers and send them out. Like that's what we do for fun.
Hilarious, but true.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. So what Dr. Edwards is saying that communication is the key. I mean, if you fall silent and if you delay the communication, then things will mess up more. So communicate and communicate fast and communicate authentically, admit mistakes, move forward, leave the past, think about present and future. Dr. Edwards, one more question to you. Why women entrepreneurs are better than men entrepreneurs?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I've never had that question.
I didn't
before.
say that. You said that.
He didn't say you said it. He just asking me. So now, for me to say this is better. Why? Well, I wouldn't say that women entrepreneurs are better entrepreneurs. I would say that women entrepreneurs are different entrepreneurs. So I would say the difference, it makes them unique. And so I think that some of our uniquenesses sometimes can give us advantages that men might not have.
Yeah,
that's my. I'm gonna stick a nail in that one. I'm gonna go with that.
Fantastic answer.
I think Ashley want to jump in and add something else.
Absolutely not. No, I agree with her. I definitely think the word is different, and there's yin and yang qualities, and I think people who survive well kind of find a way to find the balance of the good from one side and the bad from the other side, or have a good partner who's a male. And then that way they can just lean on them when they need that, that balance.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like everyone on this panel, you know, us all being women, maybe there's something else that we have in common just from like talking to everybody, which is that we're all like multitaskers by nature. Yes. So I think that we can kind of handle the role of needing to do so many different things at the same time. Maybe that's coincidence. Maybe it's something else.
Yeah. Honestly, I would think it's a a quality that makes a successful brand successful. I think that if you're really narrow in what you can accomplish, then your brand can't grow. I think you have to multitask. Like, even though my background is not in marketing, or even though my background is not in operations, both of those things had to be done. And honestly, I can't afford to hire someone else to do it. So like, I kind of have to do it. So it forces me to multitask. So I feel like really successful brands that scale and grow, they need founders who are willing and able to multitask and get a lot of things done in a lot of different categories.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely. I agree.
Mhm.
Yes, totally agree with all of you. Because I cannot disagree. Uh, Nicole, coming to you again, give us some marketing tips which people can use in the e-commerce business. How have you been able to market your business so well?
Okay, so like I mentioned before, I have a tech stack. A lot of it starts organically. If you build it, that doesn't mean they're going to come. You got to provide an inviting space in order for people to know that you exist, and you got to meet them where they are with what they need. So, starting out, when I started the business, I was actually in my late 30s, and now I'm actually in my 40s, and there's a lot of space in the market to talk to 40-something-year-old fashion-forward women. So that's what I do. I provide that type of marketing. I'm very big on email marketing. Again, I use it all, but it starts organically. People buy people, not products. And I learned that early on. And as I began to become the face of the brand and start to share, and start to organically, put my footprint on the internet, I noticed that started the marketing wheel for me. I was fortunate enough to get a BA in marketing. So those 4 or 5 P's are kind of like innate, from an education perspective. So that's what I do. I use each element of marketing to meet my target demographic where they are. If I know that those girls are on Facebook, I'm over on Facebook dropping gems and, putting together outfits and putting those images, on Facebook when I know that they're there. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, and then that leads to email marketing. I use my email marketing provider very heavily. We text, we do push, you name it, I'm there. I follow their journeys, behind the scenes to kind of see what they're doing, where they're getting hung up at. I just did an overhaul on the website to kind of use some of that data to change the shopping path to help the conversions there as well. So it's all a big, like a shepherd's pie of things, that I do in order to make sure that I'm talking to the right person at the right time in the manner in which they need to be spoken to.
I think, Nicole, that's a fantastic tip. I think there are two marketing advices. One is right, one is wrong. I think sometimes they say you should put a big net and get all kind of fish, big fish, small fish, this fish, that fish.
Yeah.
And what
Mhm.
Nicole is talking about, capturing a very niche marketing, targeting who you actually want to target, and target the right people, the right platform, with the right content, with the right channel. So niche marketing is what Nicole is suggesting, advocating, and I think that's what is working very well for her. Brittany, what kind of marketing do you do? Niche marketing, or do you cast a big net to capture everyone?
Actually, a little bit of both. So a big part of what I do is content marketing. We drive a lot of traffic through Google search. And I should tell everyone something kind of wacky about my business that I think makes us really special, which is that all of our traffic is organic. All of our sales are organic. We don't run any paid ads at all. Now, I use a lot of the same tools that Nicole was mentioning. We do push notifications, we have SMS, we do email, we're on every platform. But a big part of our traffic is through content and people coming to our website specifically because they're having a question, they have a concern, they're trying to figure out how to do something. So they come to us to figure out how to do it. We do a really gentle conversion where people, because we run, ads on the blog, we do sponsored content, like they could just come and hang out, be a part of the community. We love to have them there without even going through the buyer journey. So I don't have to worry too much about, pushing somebody into that cycle. really, I want people to feel good, feel comfortable, come back to us time and time again. And then when they're ready, they can go through that journey. So content marketing, again, is a big part of what I do. And I really recommend that for every business.
Yeah, I'm sorry to step in here.
Yeah.
I said, I just had a question for you, Brittany. That's historically how we have been doing it. We've done all organic traffic for probably the last 2.5 years or so, but we were just thinking about getting into the paid ad space to scale up and grow. And so I'm wondering, like, have you thought about that? Like, or any ideas on that? Are you thinking about getting in that space, or are you saying, no, this is not part of our brand, we just aren't doing it? Because I'm trying to process it. So I would love to hear your advice.
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. And that makes me so happy to hear that you're kind of in that same position, because hearing about your brand to me is super inspiring, right? Like, I'm already a fan just from hearing about what you do. So it makes sense that like somebody out in the world would hear about this and would want to be a part of it. Like, it's really meaningful. As far as paid ad, the issue that I'm personally encountering, and the reason that we don't run any paid ads right now, is because we're stretched so thin with fulfillment. We are full, we are maxed out. We work so hard to be able to fulfill the amount of orders that we're receiving. We have to move to a bigger space. I need more staff. Right now, we're in a good position because everybody that works for Pop Shop in the office is fully vaccinated, but we still wear masks in the office. We're still distancing. We don't have any intention of stopping that. So we have to figure out how to make that work before we're able to even consider any paid ads. But again, we're in a pretty good position. We grew last year about 5,000%, and we're up from last year about like 66%. So of course, last year was a huge bump. You know, a big part of that was the pandemic, but we're still up this year. So we'll definitely do that, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But, you know, with the content marketing, you know, specifically having the ability, you know, the thing about search and the thing about finding a business that you're not familiar with is it's not necessarily going to come through ads, and it's not going to come through those products, right? Google specifically rewards free information and answering people's questions. When people go to Google, they are trying to find out how to solve a problem that they have. So Google is going to reward that. So having something, you know, having that blog, having that content where people can understand the brand, and all of the blogs reinforce all of those shop products and really reinforce the brand identity, to me is extremely valuable. Of course, content on the website, right? Because that's where you want to keep people. But I'm also a really big fan of two particular social channels, Pinterest and YouTube. The reason that I'm a big fan of Pinterest and YouTube is that they, rather than having like a time constraint where Twitter, you know, a tweet is gonna live for maybe an hour or two, on Facebook, you know, a post maybe is gonna live for like up to 18 hours, same thing with Instagram, and then it goes away, it's like completely gone from your feed. You have the possibility to gain that momentum over time and to continue to drive more and more interest and more traffic in turn. So for me, those are particularly interesting channels that are very different. You know, they're more of search engines. So I think of them a little bit more like Google than I do like Facebook or Instagram or some of those other social channels, which are a little bit more, they have those time constraints.
So Brittany, what does your staff size look like? So I understand, I'm in a similar situation. So we do, you know, I do use paid ads, my team, but we're in a place now where we've moved into our warehouse. So we're in a place where we can kind of meet that scale. But what does your staff look like? Mine is small, but we do have about a 3,500 square foot warehouse that we're working out of. So it does allow for the social distancing aspect. But what does yours look like? So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, you know, like, how is it working for you from a staff perspective, and are you expecting to expand that?
Yeah, we do. Thanks so much for asking. We have 2 people in the office with me that work on fulfillment, that work on box fulfillment. We, print all our packing slips, we print all our shipping labels, and we have 2 dudes that spend all day literally packing those orders and prepping them to ship out. We're in this, okay, so I'm in Houston, and maybe other people have like a better experience with like the mail system, but we actually have to have a driver that takes all of our packages to a very specific USPS location where there's no theft, everything gets scanned in, they accept scan sheets. Like most of USPS in Houston like doesn't accept scan sheets. So that's kind of a headache. So we have a driver that takes packages. We have somebody that specifically picks up our recycling, takes our recycling out of our office, out of our warehouse. We have 2 assistants that work virtually that handle customer service and our subscription boxes and just like customer questions. So they work completely off-site. Okay. And then we also have a blog editor who I work with specifically on marketing. She helps support our social media channels. She makes sure that our blogs are getting published on the schedule that we want to publish them, and that there's like a variety of content, so she kind of lines everything up. We do have 3 or 4 different bloggers that are just like, they write for us whenever they feel like it, and they create some really beautiful content, and we've worked with them for years. They all have full-time jobs, and they just do it for fun on the side. So there's an additional 4 people doing that. So there's really 3 people in the office, 3 people off-site, and a couple of contract people here and there.
Okay, that's a nice size team.
Yeah.
I was my face when you said you had to go drop off at USPS. I look like that because you can have a contact at USPS who will come and pick up your packages for you.
Nope.
Really?
Have you pushed and tried? Because I know like we have our own contact, like who will come pick up packages from our fulfillment center in Georgia.
No, they in my area, you fill out the form. They, everything goes through. They're like, okay, we're going to pick up. They don't show up, claim that they've picked up. And so you can call them and they say, we were there, you weren't there. Or you can fill out a form to speak to their supervisor, and then they'll send you the form back that says, we contacted you and we've fixed the problem that you're having, even though they haven't. They just won't. And at that, for a very brief amount of time, we were able to get somebody to pick up very randomly here and there. They wouldn't show up on schedule, but they would just kind of show up every now and again. And it would sit for about 2 full days before it would get scanned in, because the person that would pick up wouldn't scan in. Versus where we have the driver taking them now, they get scanned in same day, every day. We have not had, I don't want to jinx it, we have not had 1 damaged order. We have not had 1 lost order since we started going to a very specific location. And it's really just like what postmaster at what location is good. We just happen to find one in our area that's good. But I think that anyone that's having consistent mail problems, please consider going to trying out a different location, and try out a different location until you find one that's good. But in our area, the one that's the location that's assigned to us for pickups just isn't, unfortunately, they just don't have the manpower, or maybe they just don't care. I don't really know, but we figured out.
I'm sure they're understaffed. Like, I think that was a world, well, not worldwide, but like a nationwide thing, that USPS was way understaffed.
So I wanted to ask a question. Has anybody been able to do anything to kind of smooth over your customers' concerns? So I use an automation, but I'm just trying to figure out how you ladies, how are you navigating that? Because that has been, Brittany said, they'll say that they will accuse us of like giving them a fake tracking number. And I'm like, wow, I mean, it's just, it's just how it is. It's the nature of the beast right now. So what are you all doing, from a customer satisfaction perspective, to just kind of stay in that space and smooth it over?
Yeah, I mean, I know what we have done is I wrote an email out, and in the email, I put links to other things. So it wasn't just my word, so I said, here's 4 articles that you can read, that this is a issue that's happening everywhere. So like, you can understand, like, I'm not just making it up. And honestly, that helps. I feel like people need it proof in a way that what you were saying was not enough for them. So when I had not one here source, not two sources, not three sources, here are 4 people who are saying this is the issue. So this is a problem that we're all dealing with. And then I'll be nice then, like, but thank you for your grace and your patience to work with us as we figure this out. And I feel like then that makes people feel like, oh, I can't be too hard. She's being all nice to me and I'm being mean. And then I've had people write me back like response email like, okay, I'm so sorry for being mean. I'm so sorry for this. So I had people like apologize after they know all of that's the end.
Yeah, we've had
what you were just saying about, rather than coming from a place of I'm so sorry that this error has occurred, but if you come from a place of like giving people the opportunity that like I'm listening to you and we're, you know, I'm thanking you so much for bringing my attention to this, and we are doing our best to address these things. It's like if you, rather than spin it from a negative to a positive, and you also give them the opportunity to like talk to you and speak their mind and like figure it all out and like let me know what you need, to me that's super helpful.
Yeah, that proactiveness too. We've discovered that. I do have a customer service representative, and that proactiveness, just reaching out, you know, again, like I said, I do have an automation. If something has happened or we haven't triggered an event in 6 days, you know, you get a message from me now. But just, you know, being proactive too. I just was curious because I keep hearing, you know, the USPS is kind of a theme here. So I was just wondering what everyone else was doing, because it's really been a hassle.
Yeah, and let me also say that like I would never want to throw USPS under the bus. In fact, for once we figured out which location to go to, it's been the fastest and the most reliable compared to some of the other carriers. All the carriers are having delays.
Absolutely.
No delivery dates anymore. No one is guaranteeing anything for the most part, and it's just a challenge. You know, we're trying to create safe work environments. There's more mail than there ever has been before, so it's challenging to every carrier.
I was going to say I spoke a little bit less because I haven't experienced those, probably because my fulfillment is out of our brick and mortar, and our brick and mortar is in a mall. So there's always in a pretty decent sized mall where there's like Ross and Forever 21. So there's like big enough stores that they don't have an option. They have to stop through. And we can usually gauge when they're coming because they have to come to the center and they have to stop by and they have to make those rounds. And so we kind of just jumped in on a fulfillment process that was already happening. But as far as customer service, especially when you're dealing with delays, what I have found useful is that if you start at some point building that into your product model or your demand model, sometimes, especially depending on who the customer is, they don't mind waiting at all for something that they feel like that's just a part of the nature of ordering it. A lot of us are trying to fight against Amazon every day because Amazon is one day and same day and everything, but that's their model and that's expected out of Amazon. And you just can't let a customer assume that because purchasing from Amazon is going to get it their same day, that every brand and every company is treating their products like that or their customers like that. I mean, we try to be as close. If it's something in the city that we're delivering in the city, then we'll try to do a courier service or allow options to be available that people can try more exclusive delivery. But we definitely try to avoid when we see Amazon really getting competitive and overly competitive with their delivery, that we need to build into what this company is so that when someone comes to shop, it needs to be about 2 to 3 to 4 days before they're reaching out. And however you need to build that buffer, whether you create exclusivity or you start your retention as soon as the order starts so that they're being communicated with, or offering that little incentive to, $5 off to come to your next purchase. For us, we ask for photos back when you're in the product. So that requires you to get the product first. So we have time to drag the customer along because they're excited about just getting the product for that photo. So whatever it takes, I've noticed that has been helpful, because the last thing you want to spend your time doing is saying sorry for something you can't fix or blame shifting to another organization that customer doesn't understand either. So, and when I was in the military, my skill identifier was postal. So we trained to work as postmasters at an APO or offshore. So I was able to see and understand that a lot of it is just the process of it being a government entity, is that it's never even going to be as, without putting them down, like you said, as streamlined as the way we would run our business, because it's way too many people and way less organization than we're hoping. And you're really hoping that you get to a postmaster, or you're in an area where someone is going to be A1 about really caring about the job. But a lot of those jobs, you're going to get paid, and those people are getting paid handsomely, whether they show up or not. And so it's not driven by how many packages you guys got incentivized. Did you guys get all of these packages today through? Like, so understanding their organism alone kind of either helped us. We pivoted off of USPS. We're still using them, but I've been working to partner with another private entity that could help move our orders along, especially when we start doing more buying and recycling from our customers. We just can't kind of rely on USPS that much because our package size changes so much. But if it's a situation where USPS obviously still has the best prices as of now, and so just getting that customer to be as smart as you with, look, you're going to order and this is what we expect, but there's a processing time that's this long. And because your product is so special and we make it specifically for you, there may be a fulfillment time that's this long. And then if you overshoot it and they get it earlier, they're like super excited. It came on time, and to them they thought it was going to come late.
Well, I'm extremely glad. I'm extremely glad that all you women are running the show for me. But so delighted to listen to your conversation. But I have a few questions, if I can barge in. Nicole, you are a technology person, so I want you to educate. And I'm also coming from technology company where we also have a Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce app, where we also provide technology and more specifically, email marketing, personalized email marketing, and personalized websites. Our plugin can do. I want to ask you, and I want you to educate the fellow speakers and our listeners, what technology stack do you use? What apps do you use which help you become more efficient?
So Klaviyo is one of my best friends right now. Klaviyo acts as my email marketing platform, but it also CRM. It's really intuitive. If you utilize the flows, if you utilize list and segment, if your dashboard is set up in a way where your KPIs are readily available, it's going to allow you to move the needle. I watch what my customers are doing. I can tell, maybe I need to move this product in a different place because they're spending time over here versus where I need them to go. Or maybe I need to switch the funnel a little bit. So Klaviyo is my best friend. I also utilize Klaviyo for SMS and push, but not heavily because I also use an additional push app. That has worked wonders. So with Apple products, you can't push directly to them, but you can push to Mac OS. So I utilize that really, really heavy with my push notifications. Just Uno is a really, really, really good app that allows you to integrate some of your other data fields. So I use Just Uno a lot. That follows those customer journeys. It helps the customers by holding those carts for them. It uses a little bit of AI. It identifies that customer size when they come on based on, some of the other shopping habits that the customer may have had. So Just Uno is a really, really, really good app to use. I use Consistent Cart as well. So I actually use 3 abandoned cart apps. Klaviyo has it, Shopify has it, and I also use Consistent Cart. The Consistent Cart is also going to be one of those apps where it's going to allow you to see some of the things that your customers are doing. So it'll let you know what you need to do better in some instances. And then SMS Bump is a really good friend of mine. I use SMS Bump. I also have Postscript, but SMS Bump kind of allows me to move the needle a little bit quicker. When there's some goals that I need to meet, it kind of speaks directly to the customer a little bit different in Postscript, but I have them both on there as well. So that's my slimmed down tech stack. So yeah, so that kind of helps me to move around. But Klaviyo, I would encourage anyone, if you are using any email marketing software, Klaviyo has been the best one. And that's really the one that I use every single day, all the time.
Excellent, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that secret sauce, Nicole. Coming to Brittany, Brittany, you have always been a lot of events. You have been outdoor person, and the last year, last to last year, I guess you grew by 5,000%, and then last year 66%. There's a slight drop in the growth. So, what's your advice to people whose businesses have dropped in the last 1 year? What kind of pivoting mechanism are you thinking, or were you thinking to bring in place?
Yeah, it's been so challenging for so many people, and for anyone that has struggled, over the last couple of years. I'm so concerned and sympathetic to that. I mean, of course, first and foremost, you have to be willing to change. It will be beautiful when the world goes back to as it was, but let's just consider that a lot of these trends might be here to stay. So things that are more e-commerce based are going to be extremely helpful. Anything that's virtual is going to be very, very helpful. I think that for a lot of businesses, there are ways to just put a spin on what people are already doing to be able to deliver it in a different package, in a different way, to the right type of person. So for me, for example, a big part of what we did were we hosted a biannual festival that was a lot like Etsy Come to Life, so all kinds of handmade makers. That's obviously out. We also hosted a lot of hands-on workshops at all kinds of different institutions. We still host those hands-on workshops. For example, I have one tonight. We're going to be doing candle making with a private group, but it's all through Zoom. So the same type of event, except instead of it being in person, where I'm lugging with another teacher these huge bins full of supplies and everything is super heavy. We have to go set up a space. It takes hours to set up. It takes hours to break down. We make messes everywhere. Instead, we're delivering that same experience in a kit to that consumer. They're at their house, I'm at mine, and we can move through the same exact activity in a safe environment. So if there's ways that you can put that kind of spin on your business and change, it's worth it to just try. It's certainly, for me, it's better than giving up. Being willing to change. It's a big part of running any business. Like if we kind of think about classic examples, like for me, Blockbuster is like the easiest, they weren't willing to change and now they're gone. So Blockbuster had the option to buy Netflix, I believe for like less than $2 million in Netflix's first year or two. And they didn't see, the future in that. And so, and that happens to so many different businesses. So getting ourselves out of that mindset, and just looking at our data and seeing, are we growing? Are we stable? Are things going well? And if they're not, being willing to change is a big component.
Excellent. I think that's a great advice, Brittany. Coming to Ashley, so Brittany and Dr. Edwards are big fans of content and blogs and organic traffic. Dr. Edwards is thinking about moving into ads as well. Brittany perhaps will do that, will not do that, we don't know yet. But Ashley, what's your take on ads?
My take on ads is it depends on where you are with the company, and if it's a company that's moving fast, I believe in niche targeting, but I also feel like if your company or what you're selling, it may have started for one niche, and we're in vintage sustainable. So if 3 years ago, that was a different customer than now, 5 years ago than now today. So you've got to still keep a net kind of moving, even if it's quarterly or monthly or every other month, so that you can understand who your new customers might be. Because sometimes part of not changing is not continuously turning and pivoting with whoever and front facing who that customer is. if they're changing right under your nose or growing right under your nose. I think A and B testing is very smart if you are going to spend money on ads. I use a firm. I do not do any of it. I pay attention to who our customers are, because one of my biggest marketing tools, even though we're omni-channel in a sense of I do lean on e-commerce, but we've always kept a brick and mortar, at least within this growth period of the last 5 to 6 years, because that's my main customer. And that's the first and quickest way we're going to get data on who that customer was. They can ask, my team is trained to ask all the questions we need so that we can kind of gather real-time data, and then market more cleverly. And though there's ways that it can be less expensive, but though it's kind of another channel to manage, it is basically, we just use our brick and mortar outside of the space for our fulfillment. We use it just to gather data, and that's it, so that we can market more efficiently to who the customer is. And we've placed specifically in malls where there were travelers, or busier places where there's going to be more people from more places, or specific to our age group, so that data is kind of relative to what we're looking for, or to what we need to know more about. But this is kind of the first year that we've mastered kind of how to get data in person. And now we just spend more time talking to customers in person about things and ways to make things better. But I don't know, I'm a fan of ads. I'm not a fan of how much we don't control them on certain platforms. And my 2 biggest platforms for my customer would be Instagram, which is all pay for play, and Facebook, which I can't determine half the time whether my money is actually going where it needs to or not. So that's why I use a firm, somebody that's a lot smarter than me, or that's just has a lot more bandwidth to focus on that in real time. But I, just like Brittany said, I'm more interested in, me and my front office, we spend more time in the Pinterest, the Etsy's, or YouTube, TikTok, because that's what the customer is using. When they come into the store, they're TikToking, so that's how we knew, okay, that's where they are. Or they are posting on Instagram, but in their stories, not necessarily on their page now, because the younger shoppers like more privacy, and they're using more spam pages and things, that they're not putting things on their front page as much as they are in their stories day to day. So, or they're YouTubing, they're building content. So they may come in and add your product, or add what their experience with you from online into a clip that they're creating a bigger storyline for, that you're not necessarily, you're a part of, and now you can get that exposure, but you're not necessarily the star of. But so yeah, I kind of feel like it depends. There's some businesses that work well just in pay advertisement, and they don't really need a face. They just need to have the product, get it fulfilled quickly, and get it to the customer, and that works for them. But for a brand, someone where you're trying to, like she said, people buy into people, then you have to go where they are at all times. And I haven't found, because my customer base grows and changes so much, I haven't found one specific place where they are all the time and staying. So we have to stay fluid on how we speak to them and where we speak to them. And if we're going to spend money, and if they're going to know that we're spending money to get in front of them, because that paranoia for customers now, they're becoming aware that they say something to their friend and it pops up on their phone, or that they, search something and it pops up, and they're like, well, how do they know what I'm looking for? So, you just don't want to be a company that builds into that paranoia, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we cannot be stalking them. So,
There's an
yes,
elephant in
Brittany.
the room. There's an elephant in the room that I feel like we should at least throw out there and mention, since we're on the subject of paid ads, which is that Google announced that it's, removing third-party cookies over the next 2 years. Apple, with its 14.5 update, is not just, the cookies have already been removed, or it's already blocking cookies, but additionally, it's going to block them inside of apps on the Apple iPhone. And so running ads, running paid ads, and tracking customers across these different networks is going to become more challenging. So having not just an omni-channel approach, you know, using all of those different apps that we've been talking about, and considering something that's organic or content marketing, all of those things are going to become increasingly important over the next few years.
Yes,
Absolutely.
That's a great
absolutely.
tip, Brittany. It's a great tip. Yeah, so that basically mean that you got to focus more on organic traffic, content, blogging, answering people questions and concerns, link with them, answer their concerns genuinely instead of targeting them through ads and bringing them on a platform by basically you're buying customers. If you're paying for ads, you're buying your customers. So how long can you buy your customers? Your customer should come to you automatically, organically, and you should not be buying your customers to buy products from you. I think we had a fantastic panel discussion. Thank you so much, guys. You ladies have been fantastic today, and you have been such givers. I mean, you did not shy away from giving your secret sauce, sharing what's working for you, what's not working for you. A lot of people today can use what you have told us. Thank you so much. I will send an email to you, all of you, and connect all of you. You can then be in touch with one among themselves. And thank you so much. Have a fantastic day and fantastic week ahead.
Thank you. You as well. Bye, ladies.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
having us. I learned a lot, so thank you guys. I took notes. I was like, "Ooh, let me think about that. Ooh, let me think about that." So this has been good.
Good.
Excellent. Wonderful.
See you.
Wonderful. Bye bye, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.